Thank you. Thank you so much, Tracy. Good morning where I'm at. It's still morning, but good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much, Tracy and Geneva. Um, I'm going to invite you to join a journey, and I'm going to first share my screen. So just bear with me for a minute while we get the screen sharing done. Okay. So 2.5 decades ago, I found myself in North Vancouver, a place which is, of course, gorgeous, as any Canadian knows. It's the view you get off the North Shore Mountains as you land my plane, and you're in wonder for the rest of your life. The journey to North Vancouver was interesting. I found myself in the store closest to me, and the spice section offered only a mild hint of what our Indian palates craved. For me, paprika was not a major spice. That was all the spice that was there in the aisle. Weekends, it then involved a 10-minute 45-minute drive to Main Street for basmati rice, okra, Indian mangoes, all of that stuff. And then fast forward to today, and Superstore beckons with fresh, baked in-store samosas. Can you believe it? An aisle brimming with Asian and Middle Eastern spices and condiments and naans. This is a testimony to the transformative power of diversity in the grocery segment. Meanwhile, across Canada, immigrants have been instrumental in the tremendous growth of the grocery industry. In 1978, Lebanese immigrant brothers Eli and Jamil founded Adonis, a small store in Montreal. It was in the apartment upstairs from the store where the two partners had lived for the first few years of their arrival. And only a table, three mattresses, and a refrigerator were the furnishings in the apartment at that time. And these three young men worked tirelessly 7 days a week. And today, Adonis is a thriving entity, a testament to the entrepreneurial spirit and the ability of immigrants to shape and contribute to the Canadian business landscape. In 2011, Metro purchased a majority stake in Adonis. Similarly, Tony Singh, an immigrant from Montreal, came to Vancouver and decided this is a great opportunity to open a huge grocery chain. So he launched Fruticana, and Fruticana was the first chain of many grocery stores. Now they have 22 locations in BC and in Alberta. The story doesn't end here. The first T&T supermarket opened in Burnaby, making a pivotal moment in the grocery industry. In 2009, Loblaw recognized the potential and acquired Canada's largest Asian food retailer. What is fascinating is that after acquiring it, they kept the entrepreneur in. And in fact, after the original entrepreneur has retired, her daughter has taken it forward. So there's a very clear value addition that Loblaws recognized that the immigrant entrepreneur brought. So there you have with the TNT. Then Sobeys started Chalo Fresh, which is the first South Asian focused Freshco store. They started in 2015, and it is designed for products, all Indian products in the store. Literally, you could walk in there and get everything from rice to your okra at one place. It's a huge supermarket. But when we talk about all this, whilst it's very good because everyone is now probably they've got their tummies grumbling looking at all the food photographs. But diversity isn't just about food manufacturing. The culinary shift isn't just about supermarkets expanding their offering. It's a reflection of a global trend where food transcends borders. It's about preferences and choices. In the pursuit of these choices, immigrants have played a crucial role in shaping and diversifying the Canadian landscape. However, the success of the industry also unveils challenges. Diversity isn't just about the products on the shelves, it's about the people behind the counter. I mean, imagine walking into a store eager to explore and buy, but not seeing anyone who looks like you. How did that store become your store? This challenge is not unique to grocery stores. It's a scenario replicated in workplaces across the country and in every industry. Corporations, especially in the retail sector, must recognize that diversity is not just a box to tick, it's a commitment to mirroring the communities they serve. If these chains do not reflect the diverse customer base they cater to, the message is clear. It's okay to sell to you, but we won't hire you. That is a very dangerous scenario, and that undermines the very essence of diversity and inclusion. Recruiting and retaining immigrant talent, newcomer talent, is becoming increasingly important in the face of Canada's shifting demographics. Immigration is the primary labor force across the country, and missteps can be costly. And it is easy to have missteps. A large corporation that had many IT professionals from South Asia sent out a memo to all staff disallowing South Asian foods in the lunchroom. Puzzled looks turned into frowns, and slowly the resignation started. A VP called in the team to get to the bottom of the matter. Turns out a dead exhaust fan in the lunchroom created the impetus for the diktat. Meanwhile, 6 long-term employees needed to be replaced at cost. Anil Arora, chief statistician of Canada, says, very important, a new immigrant comes to Canada every minute and a temporary resident every 50 seconds. That works out to 420,000 immigrants a month and 46,200 temporary residents. He also goes on to predict that by 2041, immigrants could make up a third of the population, the largest demographic in Canada. One third of consumers, one third of employees and employers. This is therefore not just a moral imperative, it is an economic necessity. By 2041, 3 out of 10 people you will have contact with will be an immigrant. That's a reality worth thinking about. Let's talk about the pitfalls of misrepresentation. External communication plays a key role in fostering diversity and inclusion, especially when you look at an ad that was posted on LinkedIn recently, featuring the visual featured a white-haired white male for diversity recruitment. Right, I'm completely sure that this was not intentional. This representation is the opposite of inclusion. As a nation that actually has a diversity embedded in us with English and French, we label products in both languages. We should be excelling in representing diversity in all aspects of communication. Let's talk about the critical role of diversity in the workplace. Now, this is important, because hiring and retaining newcomers in the workplaces are crucial. It's about creating supportive environments and embracing diversity. The consequences of not reflecting the market and the changing demographics of the Canadian workforce are just not missed opportunities, they can be detrimental to a company's goals. Numerous examples abound of organizations experiencing transformative changes after implementing diversity initiatives. The key takeaway is simple: hire the best person for the job, irrespective of their background or ethnicity. This is not about just filling a diversity quota. It is about tapping into a wealth of talent that can drive innovation and growth. And in the context of small to medium enterprises, The conversation on diversity and inclusion becomes even more crucial as we grapple with the economic reality of an aging population and a declining birth rate in Canada. SMEs must realize the untapped potential in newcomer talent. Diversity is not just a moral imperative, it is an economic necessity. And I like saying in these kind of calls, I like saying, remember, tick tock, that clock is ticking. The time for you to act is now. Okay, moving on. Creating inclusive workplaces. Conversations and interactions are essential in addressing the challenges and making newcomers feel truly welcome in their workplaces. It's more about just hiring. It's about creating these inclusive cultures where every individual feels valued, heard, and respected. This brings us back to the heart of the matter. Diversity, not a buzzword. It's a recipe for success. And I think the food industry should understand recipes better than anyone else. Um, it's about the foods we savor. It's about the faces we see and the opportunities we create. And as we navigate the ever-changing landscape of global foods, I said global foods, not ethnic foods. Let's remember that diversity pays dividends not just in the culinary world, but in every aspect of our lives and businesses. Now let's delve into the advantages of hiring diverse workforces. This is a topic that transcends industries and holds profound implications for the success and sustainability of businesses. Yep, I'm going to go through all 10 of these and we're going to be talking about this and feel free to make your notes and I'd love to talk to you about this after the presentation. Innovation and creativity. Diversity is a catalyst for innovation and creativity. When individuals from diverse backgrounds come together, they bring unique perspectives, experiences, and problem-solving approaches to the table. This diversity of thought fosters innovation, leading to the development of novel ideas and solutions. Consider the example of the tech industry, where diverse teams are more likely to produce innovative solutions. Companies that embrace diversity in their workforce are better equipped to navigate the rapidly changing landscape of technology and stay ahead of the curve. Next one, enhanced decision making. Diverse teams make better decisions. The inclusion of individuals with varied perspectives and experiences ensures a more comprehensive consideration of factors. This leads to well-rounded decision-making processes that take into account a broader range of potential outcomes and implications. In a globalized business environment where decisions can have far-reaching consequences, having a diverse team ensures that multiple viewpoints are considered, reducing the likelihood of groupthink and blind spots. Let's talk about increasing adaptability. A diverse workforce is inherently more adaptable. Individuals from different cultural backgrounds bring diverse skill sets, languages, and ways of approaching challenges. This adaptability becomes a strategic advantage in an ever-evolving business landscape. For multinational companies, a diverse workforce, for multinational companies, having employees who understand and appreciate different cultures is invaluable. Who remembers the word Pinto, which was one of Ford's cars? And when they launched it in Mexico, they didn't realize that the word Pinto in Spanish means won't go. Whoops. Increased adaptability and having a diverse force allows businesses to navigate international markets with cultural sensitivity, fostering positive relationships with clients, partners, and customers. Reminds me of a scenario where I was once asked to take a look at an ad based on my background. It was an ad for a bank. It was an ad for a bank for Eid, which is the most holy day of the Muslim calendar. And so I opened the ad that was sent to me, and I gasped. The ad showed a Muslim gentleman with the right beard and the fez cap saving money by putting it into a piggy bank. If anyone understands Islam and Muslims, like the Jews, Muslims do not eat pork. That ad would have created a big furor. Fortunately, that was communicated to this person. But that's what happens when you've got people who are from different backgrounds and are able to talk to you on the different backgrounds, right? Okay. Diversity expands your talent pool. By actively seeking individuals from different backgrounds, companies can tap into a wider range of skills, experiences, and expertises. This in turn enhances the organization's ability to attract top talent. In industries facing shortages such as technology and healthcare, embracing diversity is not just a matter of ethical responsibility, it's a strategic imperative for accessing the best and brightest minds. Number 5, improved employee engagement and retention. Employees who feel valued and included are naturally more engaged and committed to their work. A diverse and inclusive workforce fosters a sense of belonging, leading to higher levels of job satisfaction and retention. When employees see that their organization values diversity, they're more likely to stay with the company long term. This reduces turnover costs and contributes to the development of a stable and dedicated workforce. Number 6, enhanced reputation and market competitiveness. In today's socially conscious world, with Instagram and TikTok and all the social media instantly on top of anything, consumers and clients increasingly value diversity and inclusion, and companies that prioritize diversity not only handle their reputation, but also gain a competitive edge in the market. Consumers are more likely to support businesses that align with their values, and a commitment to diversity is a powerful statement. Moreover, companies with diverse teams are better equipped, as I mentioned earlier, to understand and cater to a global customer base. Let's talk about legal and ethical compliance. It's very important because diversity and inclusion are not only good business practices, but also essential for legal and ethical compliance. Many jurisdictions have regulations that mandate equal opportunities and fair treatment in the workplace. By fostering diversity, companies not only comply with legal requirements, but they also demonstrate ethical leadership. This not only mitigates legal risks, but also aligns with societal expectations of responsible and fair business practices. And CSR, corporate social responsibility. Embracing diversity aligns with broader corporate social responsibility initiatives. Companies that actively contribute to building diverse and inclusive workplaces are seen as responsible corporate citizens. CSR is not just about profit. It's about the positive impact a company has on society. By prioritizing diversity, businesses contribute to creating more equitable and inclusive communities, and this resonates positively with customers, employees, and investors. And then it boils down to financial performance. Research consistently shows a positive correlation between diversity and financial performance. Companies with diverse leadership teams and workforces tend to outperform their less diverse counterparts financially. A McKinsey study found that companies in the top quartile for gender diversity on executive teams were 25% more likely to have above average profitability than companies in the fourth quartile. The financial benefits of diversity extend beyond gender to encompass a range of demographic factors. Then you have the global perspective. In an interconnected world, having a workforce with global perspectives is a strategic asset. Diversity brings a richness of perspectives, language skills, understanding nuances of different cultures, and positioning companies to navigate global markets more effectively. Businesses with a diverse workforce are better prepared to understand these diverse markets and tailor their products and services to diverse customer needs and establish meaningful connections on a global scale. I'm often reminded of an example I had with a grocery chain in Vancouver. This was shortly after I had launched the Canadian Immigrant Magazine, when I got a call from them and they said that, Nick, we want to talk to you. We have a challenge. Immigrants don't come to our store. Okay. Okay. Let me think about that for a minute. And I said, can I come across and see your office? They said, yeah. Meanwhile, I took a look at their locations, and their locations were in heavy immigrant communities, and I couldn't understand it. And walking through the stores, I found lack of diversity. Absolutely, there's no gender diversity. There was no diversity of any type. And so when I went to their office, I understood exactly what the problem was, because from the time I entered the office, from the reception all the way to the boardroom, they were all white male with white hair, senior citizens. So obviously diversity was not on that top of their list. However, the good news is that once we had these discussions and went through this in detail, they actually made a complete change. And in a year's time, they actually won a diversity award. So can change happen? Yes. It depends on what the impetus is for change to happen. Okay, so let's move on to the conclusion. Conclusion is that the advantages of hiring diverse workforces are not just theoretical, they're proven, tangible, and essential for the sustained success of business in the 21st century. Diversity is not merely a checkbox to tick off or a trend to follow. It is an investment in a brighter and more resilient future. As we navigate the complexities of a rapidly changing world, let us not forget the lessons learned from the transformation of Canada's culinary landscape. The success of the grocery industry wasn't just about providing a variety of foods, it's about embracing the richness of diverse foods and culinary traditions. Similarly, in the corporate world, the success of businesses will be shaped by their ability to harness the richness of diverse talents, perspectives, and experiences. Diversity is a practical and strategic imperative. It's about recognizing the strengths that lie in our differences and creating workplaces where everyone has the opportunity to thrive. So as leaders, entrepreneurs, and change makers, let us commit to building workplaces that celebrate diversity, foster inclusion, and unlock the full potential of every individual. Because in the words of Maya Angelou, we all should know that diversity makes for a rich tapestry. And we must understand that all the threads of the tapestry are equal in value, no matter their color. Thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to questions.
Thanks, Nick. I'm gonna go ahead and get started with our Q&A. But there is still time. If you do have any questions, submit them now and we'll make sure we get to them before Nick leaves today. So our first question is, how do you ensure that job descriptions and advertisements are inclusive and don't contain bias or stereotypes?
Thank you. That's a really good question. So I'd say let's start from not just job descriptions, but from your website. What does your website show? What when you're talking about customers, are your customers reflected on your communication, whether it's your website, whether it's in your advertising? That's critical for you to have, because if you don't have that, then your even if your job description is great for newcomers, there's a gap between what you're promising and what your other communications, like your website and your ads, are showing. So it has to be all inclusive, because anything short of that all catchphrase is going to be nothing. And I think someone wants to answer that question. Is that Tracy?
Nope.
I'm
Nope.
getting a thing
No
that
one's
says,
raising a hand. No, we're good. We're good. Do you have
okay,
anything else to add to that question before we move on to the next one?
no, I'm good with that.
Perfect.
Yeah, yeah.
Amazing. Okay, the next question is, what can corporations and companies do to ensure newcomer talent feels comfortable and confident in the workplace?
Great question. I go back to what happened when I came to Canada 25 years ago. My first job was with a Canadian couple, and they made me feel comfortable. And going back to what they did, it was just acknowledging and asking about culture. It's asking about your culture, understanding, and it's the lunchtime part, right? The relaxed time where you have your downtime. It's about making the communications two ways. It's about giving them the space to grow. One of the things that research has shown is a lot of immigrants will sit in boardrooms and they'll sit quietly, because they'll be wary of saying something which may not be correct. And how does one actually draw those people out and get them to talk? How do we make them feel included in the conversation? That's important. It's not going to be easy, but it's going to be something. If one third of your population is immigrant, you don't have a choice. At some point in time, you're going to have to start looking at it.
Yeah, perfect. Our next question is, what can employees offer a diverse staff to support growth and development?
That's a great question. So, PD, professional development opportunities, growth opportunities, development opportunities, learning opportunities, treat them same as you would with someone who was born in Canada. But also ask them, is there something that you would like to learn yourself, which would enhance your personal skills? That would help. So, one of the things that I did have is in my first company that I worked with, my boss asked me, "Is there something specifically you would like to do?" I said, I'd like to learn I'd like to go and do a course on the software that we're using, so I can do a better job of that." So that's something which I didn't have in my home country. Though I've come from India, I was in Dubai before I came here. I didn't have that. So the boss said, "Yeah, absolutely." And so then you're starting to encourage your employees' learning capabilities. I do the same thing in my team. I turned around and told a person that, you know what, if you want to take a course, yeah, the company will pay for it. And that company paid for the courses, and we actually monetized that course in a way whereby we said, if you fit for each course you finish, because it's so important to our business, this is what we'll give you as a financial incentive.
Nothing like financial incentive to motivate people, huh?
Absolutely.
Our next question is, are there any tips for employers on how to be aware of discrimination in the workplace?
Yeah. And sometimes a lot of this can be hidden. Discrimination can be hidden. It can be perceived discrimination. It may not necessarily be discrimination. It may be perceived discrimination. And so how does one handle that? I think it's the question. The question is more, what kind of an environment do you want to have in your workplace? Do you want to have an environment where it's open, where you can turn around and say, okay, you know what, you can come and talk to me about things. You can come and talk to me about things that are in our changing world of social media. They're things that we'd like to hear from you rather than go out into the internet ether, so to speak. So I'd like to turn around and say that, the best thing is to turn around and say, let's handle discrimination. Does discrimination happen? It absolutely will happen when you've got people from different cultures working together. Okay. So let's acknowledge that, number one. Number two is, let's say, okay, how are we going to handle it as a company? If you have a scenario where you'd like to bring this to our attention, or if you believe that this has happened to you, it's affecting you, please come and talk to me or talk to my HR person. Make it clear, lay it out. What are the steps that they can use so that they can mitigate these kind of challenges?
Perfect. Our next question is, do you see younger generations of Canadians, for example, millennials and Gen Z, to be more likely to observe discrimination compared to older generations?
And so that's a really interesting question. So, when I'm looking at this new generation, I see them having a very different perspective uh, uh, on diversity. That for them, they've grown up with diversity. So I'll give you an example. A friend of mine told me that her daughter came back from school and said, "Oh, my best friend is Sita." Someone said, "Oh, she's from India." She said, "No, she's from Canada." This is a 6-year-old kid who stood up to her mom and said, "No, she's Canadian." And I think it's telling that that parents, including myself, we see diversity, and we see these kind of divisions more than the younger generation. So your millennials and your Gen Z have probably gone to school with someone from a different country.
Yeah.
And so for them, it's a lot easier to accept diversity than it is for the older generation. Actually, it's the older generation where you've got a bigger problem.
Okay. Next question is, how many Canadian firms use diversity and inclusion metrics?
I don't have the exact number, but I can tell you a couple of things on this. Number one is not enough, and I also want to take this opportunity to call out. There are companies who talk about diversity and equity initiatives, and they put someone in who is not in any way. I've seen a white male who is in charge of diversity. So that's not gender diversity. That's not racial diversity of anything. And then that tends to be a little bit of just a tick mark that you want to add. Is it done deliberately? I'm sure it's not done deliberately. I think it's just a missed opportunity that organizations need to recognize.
I agree. Our last question, Nick, is, do you feel that Canadian leaders are putting relatively little investment into staffing the diversity and inclusion function?
Yeah, and then apart from the diversity and inclusion function, we also have this whole woke world that we live in. So, it's like, what is right, what is wrong, and what are you supposed to be doing? And with all of that stuff, there is investment into diversity and inclusion, but I've actually read that document in detail. Whilst the document has been, it's actually a Government of Canada document that's very much in depth, and that actually is reflected in policy. It's reflected in funding. So there is a move towards doing that. It's not enough. It has to. Again, let's look at when we talk about the demographic change now in immigrant networks. I see that. I've been working in the immigrant space for 25 years. When I came to Canada, your average age of the immigrant who came in was anywhere from 35 to 55. Today's age is very different. They're much younger. Your immigrant is anywhere from 25 to 35. So now you've got someone who's not only younger, one of the key components of immigrating to Canada is now the English language. You need to have a Canadian language benchmark of 8 or more. Now it differs when you're talking about temporary workers and you're talking about refugees. It's a very different ballgame. But the fact of the matter is, your immigrant coming into the country is very different. They're hitting the ground running. They're very information hungry. So this is the cell phone generation. This is the generation that but they knew about Google a lot longer than I wasn't. I didn't have Google around when I was growing up. But I can tell you that my grandkids, my grandson, when he was 2.5, he used to talk to Google because he wanted Google to play his nursery rhymes. So it's a very different generation. They're younger, they're upwardly mobile, and the dangerous thing is if they don't get a job in Canada, they're going away. And we've seen the statistics coming in that talk about them going away. The aging tsunami is on us. We already have that here. There is a huge labor shortage that's coming. Everyone talks about everything else to distract people. But the fact of the matter is there is a huge labor shortage looming, and that's going to hit us hard, and we're not going to be able to handle it. What's going to happen? Productivity is going to plummet as economic strength and growth.
Well, thank you
I
very
hope
much.
that covers everything.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, Nick. Thank you so much again for coming and joining us today. I'm going to pass you back to Tracy.
Yes, thank you very much, Nick. You answered a lot of questions for me. I know I thought those 10 points that you had were right on target there. So I hope for anybody that was watching today, please let people know to come and watch our YouTube channel so they can also see this very interesting talk that Nick has given us. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. I'd like to tell you that in November, we're pleased to have Sherry Nicole, who's going to be presenting her webinar on HR 101, Best Practices for Your Food Business, which should be very interesting as well. We look forward to you joining us on November the 30th. Thanks again, Nick, and we really appreciate the time that you spent with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.